What do you do when your co-parent is a narcissist or your child's grandparents are narcissists? How do you deal with that? Do you talk to the kids about it? And how do you help them to avoid becoming narcissists? Well, that's what we're talking about today at queenbeing.com. So let's get started. My name is Angie Atkinson, and on this channel, I offer free daily video coaching to help you discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse and toxic relationships. I like to call it toxic relationship rehab. Sound good? If so, hit that subscribe button and let's get going. So I think the most important thing to note at the beginning of this video is to remind you that even if your child is being protected by you or someone else in the situation, the narcissist can very negatively affect the way that they develop. And of course, the effects of this type of abuse can be very difficult to reverse and quite profound. If you step ahead of the game and you start by making proactive choices now, your kids are going to have a much better time growing up and continuing throughout their lives. You have to remember, when the body is broken, it mends. But when the mind is messed with, it doesn't always mend so easily. It's a very long and difficult road to repair these kinds of injuries. Emotional abuse is going to impact your child psychologically, emotionally, socially, and cognitively. Of course, the effects can appear almost immediately, and they can continue well into adulthood, and they can intensify as your child gets older. And unfortunately, there are some pretty heartbreaking effects of this kind of abuse. Common problems might include insecurity, withdrawing socially, drug and alcohol abuse, poor self-esteem, lack of confidence, destructive behavior, and your child might even exhibit antisocial behavior, impaired development mentally and otherwise. Certain types of defiant behavior, especially with people who are in the authority figure place. They might have a hard time forming relationships or maintaining them. They might have an unstable job situation, job history. And in some cases, they may even take their own lives. It's not a joke, it's serious. You must be aware. These effects can occur in varying degrees depending, of course, on the severity of the abuse and how much the kid actually takes. Putting your kid in an environment that allows them to feel heard and loved is obviously step one. If you're not able to get out, there are some things you can do to help your child, but if you've already gotten out, there are still things you need to do to help your kid cope and move forward, because you will be dealing with a co-parent or a grandparent who is a narcissist, and as we all unfortunately know, they don't change. One of the first things you need to remember is that just a tiny bit of kindness can really go far with a child. There was a study a while back, it's been many years now, but the study basically said that even one person can make a difference in a child's life. So if you're that person for your child, if you're the person who is the centered, balanced one, make sure that you listen to that kid. Make sure that you do your very best to have a positive, healthy, normal relationship with your child. Even if you're the aunt or uncle of that child, you can still make a big difference in their life by just being connected to them. The study proved that even teachers who would intermittently reach out to children could make a big difference in a kid's development and life in the long run. It's also important to remember that children who go through abuse experience life differently than their peers. For example, when abused children go to school, they might become bullies themselves. They might just show a lot of anger or rage. They have a strong need for attention, and sometimes that's even negative attention. It can reach pretty crazy heights sometimes. On the flip side of that, your child could be a people pleaser, or they could be someone who essentially does whatever people want them to do, and that is also something you don't want, as you personally probably know. Kids who go through emotional abuse might be underachievers, and they might be overachievers, depending on the way they choose to take the situation and handle it. It is devastating to watch your child be emotionally abused or manipulated by someone else. And that is especially true when it's either your current partner, your ex, or your own parent. It's complicated, and you don't always know how to respond, because conventional information tells you don't talk bad about a child's parent. And you shouldn't talk bad about a child's parent. But how do you help your kids? How do you deal with this? When your child is being emotionally manipulated by the other parent or by a grandparent, how are you supposed to handle it, since you can't talk bad about them? Here are a few suggestions. Number one, be honest. Don't lie about it. You don't want to pretend everything's normal, but at the same time, you want to speak respectfully, but also matter-of-factly about the situation. If you pretend that it's not happening or you discount what's happening, your child's cognitive dissonance will increase. The next thing you want to do is educate your child. Educate your child about emotional abuse. Keep it as age appropriate as you can, but you know your kids. You know what they can handle, so don't let it bother you too much. Keep it simple, but keep it real. Teach your child how to not get sucked in by the drama. And one way you can do that is my next point, number 3, role model. Be a good role model for your child. Show them how to gray rock if they need to know. Show them how to love themselves. Show them how to have compassion for themselves by doing it for yourself. Demonstrate to them confidence. Demonstrate confidence and strength to your children. Make sure your child understands how to manage his or her anger. This is really important in any situation. Again, the best way to do this is to manage your own anger. So don't allow yourself to engage in petty little arguments with your narcissist or with the narcissist. And don't allow yourself to blatantly display triggers regarding their behavior. Instead, practice breathing and walking away. Practice only responding when the person is being relatively positive or at least neutral. Learn to use self-control with your own anger, and you can easily show your kids the same thing. Let your children know that you see them and that they are real, whole people. Make sure that you look them right in their eyes and that you speak to them directly and that you let them know that you feel them. Validate your kids. It's really easy to forget this one, especially if you're still in the middle of it, but it's so important. Validate your kids. Tell them they are strong, they are good, they are smart. Understand that if you have left or you're planning to leave the relationship, whether it's a grandparent thing or a co-parent thing, you're going to have to go through the grieving process with your children. If they say to you, I miss XYZ, I miss grandma, I miss papa, I miss daddy, I miss mommy, you have to say, what do you miss about them? In the most loving voice you can. And if it's something like they always gave me a piece of candy on Sundays and bought me stuff, you have to go ahead and do those things for them if you can. What do you say to a kid if you're trying to explain to them what narcissism is? There are 2 theories to this one. Number 1, you don't need to explain at all. And some people think it's a bad idea to explain. Personally, I think it's a good idea to explain, especially if they ask you. So one of the things that you can say to them is something like, when mommy was a little girl, she didn't get taught how to care about how other people feel or how to understand how other people feel. And so sometimes she makes choices that aren't very nice and that she shouldn't because they hurt people's feelings or they hurt people's whatever, or they hurt people in some other way. And then explain that it doesn't mean that mommy doesn't love you. It only means that mommy is a narcissist or that mommy, as a result of her upbringing, whatever you want to say. But you see, if you explain it to them in a very simple, matter-of-fact way and explain that mommy, who in this example is the narcissist, still loves them in her own way, it's a start. Now, if there's physical abuse, that's a whole other ball of wax, but we're talking about just an emotionally abusive person. My final point for today is that there are some messages you should be sending your child if they are in any way being affected by a narcissist in their lives. The very first and most important message is, you're good enough. You're wanted. I love you. The next thing you should let them know is that, you know what? Everybody demonstrates love in a different way. They care about you in different ways. Sometimes it kind of seems like something that you don't understand as love, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to tolerate it. It just means that's how that person shows love. And on that same token, remind them that, hey, you know what? Love is what people do, not so much what they say. Remind them that you trust them and that you will always listen to anything they have to say and you will always believe them. This is really, really important, especially when you're concerned about abuse of any sort with your child. Your child needs to know that if they come to you and they say, mommy or daddy, this happened to me, you will believe them. And it should be your default response to believe them and investigate the claim before you do anything else, because you don't want to be the parent who didn't believe their child when they were abused. You want to teach your child that they will always know in their heart, in their soul, in their gut, what's true and what isn't. You need to teach them how to trust themselves, trust what's right, what's wrong. If they get confused, you need to let them know that you are there and they can talk about it to you. You need to let your child know that their words matter, that their thoughts matter, that they have just as much right to be here and to be heard as other people. You need to remind your child that everybody loves just a little bit differently. Some people love unconditionally. And you can remind them, you know what, honey, I'm one of those people that loves you unconditionally. Some people don't, and some people will never experience that in their lifetime. The fact of the matter is you can't make anybody love in a way that they don't understand. And this is never a reflection on your child. And you should make sure that they understand that. If someone can't love you the right way, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It means there's something wrong with them. And let's be honest, people, When you are an adult, there are very few people who will actually love you unconditionally. And most of us should have been loved unconditionally by our parents, and a lot of us weren't. But that doesn't mean that you can't offer that comfort to your own child. And you should. You need to remind your child that they are accepted and they are loved exactly as they are. They don't need to be a carbon copy of you or their other parent or of anyone else in the world. They don't have to earn your love. They don't have to earn anybody's love by being anything other than what they already are, what they want to be, not what anybody else wants. They don't have to put on any sort of show or fakeness to get love. They should just be their true selves. It's really important to let kids know that they are allowed to speak their mind with you, that they don't have to be scared that you'll be angry if they tell the truth or disagree with you. Finally, you need to make sure that your child understands that they are their own person, and that's good. That they don't have to look like anyone else, think like anyone else, be like anyone else, behave like anyone else, speak like anyone else, believe the same thing as anyone else. They are entitled and allowed to be their own separate self. They are an individual, and you must encourage that, because one of the things that narcissists do to children is teach them that they are simply extensions of themselves. It's really important for us to teach our children to become individuals for who they are. On a more practical level, to teach a child about how to deal with a narcissist if they have to go over for a visit and you can't go with them. Explain to them that when there are requests made by that parent or grandparent that are reasonable and that are not personally harmful to them, they should comply with them respectfully and quietly. Otherwise, they are allowed to say no, and they are allowed to walk away if the argument escalates. And make sure, if you can, if the child's big enough, make sure the child has a phone and they can call you. And even if you need to kind of hide it in their backpack, if your child screams and cries and doesn't want to go to the other parent's house, do everything you can to avoid it if possible. Just stay strong. In my next video on this topic, I will be discussing how to deal with a child or an adult child who has been turned against you by a narcissistic parent. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And now it's time for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, do you have a child with a narcissist, or are you dealing with a narcissist grandparent with your child? And if so, please share your thoughts and your experiences on that in the comments below. And what other questions do you have for me regarding how to deal with a co-parent or a grandparent who is a narcissistic abuser? Let me know. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your ideas below. That's all I've got for you right now. As always, thank you so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life. And hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. I'll see you soon.
It's my mission to teach others what I know to be true. You really can create the life you want. Take care of your body, take care of your soul, nurture the real you, and introduce him or her to the world. Be comfortable in your own skin and in your place in this world. Take your spot, take it now, and the universe will take its cue from you. You feel me? If so, subscribe to my channel. Let's get it done together.